You kicked off this Monday with a list of 7 top priority tasks. Wednesday rolled around and you're still stuck on number 2. Friday ended and you put in 60 hours of work, but didn't complete a single one of those 7. The issue isn't a lack of productivity, it's the absence of the system Andrew Carnegie implemented every Sunday night, long before any financial results started to show. Napoleon Hill documented in Think and Grow Rich the precise method Carnegie employed to organize his week before delegating. He didn't start with the task itself. He began by visualizing the entire week's outcome. Carnegie set aside Sunday evenings for this process. Hill observed the same pattern in 87% of his interviewees. What exactly were they doing during this time that structured everything before they even began? Between 1908 and 1928, Napoleon Hill interviewed 504 self-made millionaires. They weren't born into wealth. They built it. Think Edison, Ford, Rockefeller, Schwab, Wanamaker. He didn't ask about their money. He asked about their routines. What did they do on Sunday nights? How did they organize their week before it even began? Their answers revealed a pattern. This pattern wasn't found in any business books of the era, nor in any productivity manual. It was an invisible system, yet Carnegie had been using it since he was 22, Ford since he was 30, and Schwab since he was 27. Hill dubbed this pattern the definite weekly organization. It wasn't about doing more. It was about prioritizing what truly mattered before any external urgency dictated what was urgent. And this system had 4 steps, 4 moves that separated those who drove their week from those who were driven by it. You're about to hear each step. You'll hear the complete system, and by the end, you'll know exactly what Carnegie did every Sunday that made his Mondays start differently. Hill documented a pattern in 93% of people who failed financially despite working 60 hours a week. They started Monday without prior mental definition, without knowing the single, unique outcome for that week, without knowing what separated an important task from an urgent one. Their subconscious had no direction, and when the subconscious lacks direction, it accepts any external direction, the first call of the morning, the first email with urgent in the subject line, the first meeting someone scheduled on your calendar without asking. And by the end of the week, you had worked, but you hadn't moved forward. Monday morning began with 3 urgencies from others. By Wednesday, you were completely off the plan you made last Friday. Friday ended with a feeling of empty productivity. You'd answered 27 emails, attended 11 meetings, resolved 4 crises. But you hadn't closed the one outcome that mattered when the week began. Carnegie described this in an interview with Hill as a week without definition. When you don't define the outcome before the week starts, the week defines it for you, and the week will always define urgency, never importance, because urgency screams. Importance makes no noise. Hill observed Carnegie for 6 months in 1909. He documented every Sunday evening and discovered that Carnegie never, for 26 consecutive weeks, started Monday without performing the same ritual on Sunday. It wasn't superstition, it was method. The ritual began with a question, a single question that Carnegie answered in writing every Sunday at 7 in the evening. The question was simple. The answer changed everything. But before Carnegie answered that question, he did something 98% of people never do. He sat in a specific chair in his office, closed the door, disconnected the telephone. Yes, in 1909, residential telephones existed, and Carnegie disconnected his. And he remained in silence for 5 minutes. 5 minutes of absolute silence before writing anything. Hill asked why. Carnegie replied, "If I don't silence the past week, I will plan the next one with the ghosts of the previous." Ghosts. He called them ghosts. The tasks that weren't completed, the meetings that resolved nothing, the urgencies that consumed energy without generating results. The silence killed the ghosts. And after the silence, Carnegie took a blank sheet of paper, no list, no bullet points, a blank sheet, and wrote the question at the top. The question was, if this week had only one outcome, what would it be? Not two, not three, one. And the answer couldn't be a task. It had to be an outcome, not send proposals, but close contract with distributor, not organize documents, but filing system functional and tested. An outcome is something that exists at the end of the week that did not exist at the beginning. Carnegie took between 7 and 12 minutes to write this answer. Hill timed him. It wasn't quick, because the wrong answer generated an entire wrong week. And Carnegie knew that most people answered this question with the first thing that came to mind. And the first thing that comes to mind is always urgency disguised as importance. When Carnegie finished writing the week's single outcome, he read it aloud 3 times. Hill asked why. Carnegie replied, because if I don't hear it with my own ears, the subconscious won't believe it's real. Say this out loud. A week without a defined outcome is a week controlled by others' urgency. Hill called this first step the definition of weekly purpose, and recorded that Carnegie applied this since he was 22 years old. Before he had fortune, before he had a company, before he had a team, he was already defining the week's outcome before the week began, and that changed everything. What you just heard completely changes how we think about time management. And there's one detail Hill always emphasized. You become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. That's why I created Rich Mind, a free community for anyone who takes these principles seriously. Inside, you'll find the 17 principles, daily verses, a 21-day planner to rewire your mind, and a community where people from all over the world share ideas every single day. The link is in the pinned comment. Join today, because those who wait never start. The first step of the system Carnegie applied every Sunday evening had a name. Hill called it the single outcome definition, and the rule was absolute: 1 sentence, 1 outcome, no lists. Carnegie would write the question at the top of the page. If this week had only 1 outcome, what would it be? And the answer had to fit in a single sentence. It couldn't be vague. It couldn't be generic. It had to be specific enough that by 6 o'clock in the evening on Friday, he could look at it and know whether it had happened or not. A real example documented by Hill in 1911. Carnegie wrote, "Railroad contract signed and first delivery scheduled. Not advanced negotiations, not improve client relationship. Outcome. Something that exists at the end of the week." Hill observed that 84% of people who tried to apply this step failed on their first attempt because they confused tasks with outcomes. They would write "finish report" instead of "decision made based on report." They would write "make 10 calls" instead of 3 meetings scheduled from calls. Carnegie corrected this with a second question. After writing the answer, he would ask himself, so what? If the answer was "finish report," he would ask, so what? What happens after the report is done? The true answer was the outcome. The report was just the means. Hill recorded that this "so what" exercise changed the answer in 71% of cases. People discovered that what they thought was the outcome was just a task on the way to the real outcome. After defining the single outcome, Carnegie did something that set this system apart from any productivity method of the time. He didn't move on to a to-do list. He moved on to the pillars. Pillars were the 3 areas that needed to advance for that outcome to exist. Not 2, not 4, 3. And Hill discovered why this number mattered. 2 pillars are insufficient to support any complex structure. 4 pillars disperse energy because the human brain cannot maintain conscious focus on more than 3 fronts at the same time. 3 is the number of stability, and Carnegie knew this before any neuroscience research confirmed it. So he would look at the week's single outcome and ask, what are the 3 areas that need to advance for this to exist? And he would write 3 pillars below the outcome. Never more, never less, always 3. A documented example. If the outcome was railroad contract signed and first delivery scheduled, the 3 pillars were financial proposal revised and internally approved, objections mapped and responses prepared, in-person meeting with decision-makers scheduled. Each pillar was an area of advancement, not an isolated task, an area, and each pillar could have multiple tasks underneath. But the pillar itself was one thing. A front of construction. Hill asked Carnegie why he didn't list tasks directly, why he needed the pillars. Carnegie replied, because a task without a pillar is movement without structure. You do 20 tasks and don't advance the outcome. A pillar organizes tasks around what supports the outcome. And then comes the part that 95% of people skip. The order matters. You cannot identify the pillars before defining the outcome. Because without the outcome, the pillars will be generic. They will be improve product, increase sales, strengthen team. And that's not a pillar, that's a wish. A pillar comes after the outcome. And when it comes after, it is specific, it is structural, it supports exactly that outcome, not just any outcome. Carnegie took between 5 and 8 minutes to identify the 3 pillars. And when he was done, he would reread the entire page. Outcome at the top, 3 pillars below, and he would ask the final question of step 1. If these 3 pillars advance, does the outcome happen? If the answer was no, he rewrote the pillars. If the answer was yes, he moved on to step 2. Say this out loud. Outcome without a pillar is a wish. A pillar without an outcome is movement without direction. Hill called this stage triple structuring. And he recorded that Carnegie never, in 20 years of documented application, violated the 3-pillar rule. Never less, never more, always 3. You've already got the first step down. Now comes the work of applying it for 21 days until it becomes automatic. That's why we created the Mental Reprogramming Planner. A practical system based on neuroscience and Hill's principles to eliminate procrastination, build real discipline, and reprogram your mind for high performance. It's not about motivation, it's about method. The link is in the pinned comment of this video. After identifying the 3 pillars supporting the week's unique outcome, Carnegie made the move that separated planning from execution. He'd grab the next week's agenda and block off 3 mornings, Monday morning, Wednesday morning, Friday morning, always in the morning, always before any external commitments. And each morning was dedicated to 1 pillar, not all 3, just 1. Monday was pillar 1, Wednesday was pillar 2, Friday was pillar 3. Hill asked why always in the morning. Carnegie replied, because in the morning, the mind hasn't been hijacked by external urgency yet. The subconscious is fresh. The decision energy is intact. If I leave the pillar for the afternoon, it will compete with 20 other things, and it will lose. This time, blocking had a name. Carnegie called it construction time protection. And the rule was absolute. Nothing invaded these blocks. No meetings, no phone calls, no emergencies. Hill documented an extreme case in 1913. Carnegie had a meeting scheduled with J.P. Morgan for a Monday morning. The meeting had been arranged 3 weeks in advance. The previous Friday, Carnegie realized that Monday morning was already blocked for the week's pillar 1. He called Morgan and asked to reschedule. Morgan accepted. The meeting moved to Tuesday. When Hill asked if Carnegie wasn't afraid of offending Morgan, he replied, if I violate the system once, the system stops working. It's not about Morgan, It's about principle. Construction time is non-negotiable. And here's the part that destroys the productivity of 97% of people. They plan without protecting the time. They define the outcome. They identify the pillars, and they think that's enough. It's not. Because if the time to work on the pillar isn't blocked in the agenda before the week starts, it won't happen. A meeting will pop up. An urgency will arise. Someone will appear saying, "I need you now," and the pillar gets pushed back, and later never comes. Edison applied the same system. Hill documented this in personal correspondence with Edison between 1914 and 1918. Edison blocked Monday, Wednesday, and Friday mornings for the week's 3 pillars. And in a letter from 1916, Edison wrote, "I could earn $50,000 by accepting a meeting on a pillar morning. But if I accept, I will lose $500,000 in the next 6 months because the system breaks." Hill called this the principle of protection, and the principle stated, what doesn't have a fixed time on the agenda doesn't happen. It's not about having time, it's about protecting the time before anything else comes in. Ford applied the same rule. Hill interviewed Ford in 1923 and asked, "How many times have you violated the pillar time block in the last 5 years?" Ford replied, 3 times, and in the following 3 weeks, nothing important advanced. 3 times in 5 years, 60 months, 260 weeks, 3 violations. And Ford remembered all 3 because each violation generated a consequence. Now pay attention. Step 3 of the system, non-negotiable time protection, only works if Step 1 and Step 2 were done in the correct order. If you try to block time before defining the outcome, what will you block time for? To work on important things. That's not protection, that's self-deception. If you try to block time before identifying the pillars, you'll block generic time. Monday morning, I'll focus on Project X. And then Monday comes, and you don't know where to start. Because the time is protected, but the direction hasn't been defined. The sequence matters. Outcome first, pillars next, time protection last. This order is non-negotiable, and Carnegie never, in 20 documented years, inverted this order. Hill recorded that 89% of people who tried to apply the system failed because they skipped Step 1 or Step 2. They started directly with time blocking, and then they blocked time. To do what? To react more calmly. That's not a system, that's an illusion of control. Say this out loud. Unprotected time is time that will be taken by others' urgencies. And when Carnegie finished blocking the 3 mornings in his agenda, he made one last move before closing the planning sheet. He would write a sentence at the bottom of the page. The sentence was always the same. If I violate the block, the entire week turns into reaction. This sentence was the reminder, the mental trigger, the commitment to himself. And every time someone tried to invade a pillar morning during the week, Carnegie would reread the sentence before responding. And most of the time, the answer was no. Charles M. Schwab attempted to implement Carnegie's system in 1912. Schwab was the president of Bethlehem Steel. He was 28 years old and overwhelmed with urgent tasks. He asked Carnegie to teach him the weekly organization method Carnegie used every Sunday. Carnegie taught him, explaining the 3 steps, defining the single outcome, identifying the 3 pillars, and protecting non-negotiable time. Schwab took meticulous notes. The following Sunday he applied it, but he skipped Step 1. Schwab went straight to the pillars, thinking, I already know what needs to move forward this week. I don't need to waste time defining an outcome. He then listed 3 pillars: improve production efficiency, resolve supplier issue, and prepare financial report. It seemed solid. These were 3 real areas of focus. Schwab blocked off Monday, Wednesday, and Friday mornings, protecting the time. He entered the week believing he had done it correctly. Friday arrived. Schwab had worked on all 3 fronts. He had advanced efficiency, resolved the supplier issue, and finished the report. But when he sat down to review the week, he realized that nothing he had done generated real results. Efficiency improved by 2%, but it didn't impact delivery. The supplier issue was resolved, but it wasn't the critical supplier. The report was ready, but no one made a decision based on it. He had worked 62 hours. He had blocked time. He had followed the pillars, and he hadn't moved forward with anything that truly mattered. Hill documented this case because Schwab had the humility to return to Carnegie and ask, "Where did I go wrong?" Carnegie took the planning sheet Schwab had made on Sunday. He looked at the 3 pillars and asked, what was the single outcome for the week? Schwab couldn't answer because he had skipped step 1. He had chosen pillars without defining what those pillars supported. And pillars without an outcome are movement without direction. Carnegie asked Schwab to redo the planning the following Sunday, starting with step 1. Schwab began by writing the question, if this week had only one outcome, what would it be? It took him 11 minutes to answer. The answer was, steel supply contract with Pennsylvania Railroad signed. This was an outcome, specific and measurable. It either happened or it didn't. Then Schwab identified the 3 pillars. Adjusted financial proposal approved by the board, delivery deadline objections mapped and answered, and in-person meeting with Pennsylvania Vice President scheduled and prepared. The pillars now supported something. They weren't generic. They were structural. And Schwab blocked off Monday, Wednesday, and Friday mornings, 1 pillar per day, protecting the time. He entered the week with clarity. Monday morning, Pillar 1, proposal adjusted, approved by the board on Tuesday. Wednesday morning, Pillar 2, objections mapped, answers prepared. Friday morning, Pillar 3, meeting scheduled for the following week, presentation rehearsed. At 6 o'clock on Friday evening, Schwab reviewed. The outcome hadn't happened yet. The contract would only be signed the following week, but the 3 pillars supporting the outcome were in place. And the following Monday, the contract was signed. Hill followed Schwab for 6 months, recording 26 weeks of planning. In 23 of the 26 weeks, Schwab applied the complete system, outcome defined, pillars identified, time protected. And in 21 of those 23 weeks, the outcome happened. In the 3 weeks where Schwab violated the system, 2 times he skipped step 1, 1 time he didn't protect the time, no relevant outcome occurred. 0 out of 3. But the case Hill considered most powerful wasn't Schwab. It was R.U. Darby. Darby had gone bankrupt in gold mining, losing everything. And in 1925, at 32 years old, he read Think and Grow Rich for the first time. He discovered the weekly organization system and decided to apply it. It was Sunday night, August 23, 1925. Darby lived in Chicago. He worked as an accountant, earning $57 a month. He had no team, no company, no fortune. But he had the system. He sat at his kitchen table. He took out a sheet of paper. He wrote the question, if this week had only one outcome, what would it be? It took him 9 minutes to answer. The answer was, contract with insurance distributor closed. That was the outcome. He identified the 3 pillars, commercial proposal prepared and reviewed, common objections mapped and answers written, and presentation rehearsed until it flowed without notes. And then he blocked off Monday, Wednesday, and Friday mornings from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock before going to work as an accountant. 2 hours a day, 3 days a week, each day dedicated to 1 pillar. Monday morning, 6 o'clock. Darby prepared the proposal. Wednesday morning, 6 o'clock, he mapped objections. Friday morning, 6 o'clock, he rehearsed the presentation. And on Friday afternoon, after his accounting shift, he went to the distributor. He presented, and he closed the contract. Hill interviewed Darby 6 months later, asking how many weeks he had applied the system since August. Darby replied, 26 weeks. I missed 3 due to illness. In the other 23, the outcome happened in 21. 21 out of 23, a 91% conversion rate between planning and outcome. And Darby had no money, he had no team, he had no office of his own, but he had the system, and the system worked. Because the system didn't depend on resources, it depended on sequence, outcome, pillars, time protection, in that order, always. Now I want to know, what's the one result you want to achieve next week? Not 5, not a generic list, just one result. Write it in the comments right now, because when you declare something in writing, your brain processes it differently. And if you're applying the system Carnegie used, hit that like button so I know you're on board, because there's one more layer most people miss, and it's the most powerful one. Carnegie didn't stop on Sunday night. He had a second system, a system that shielded the mind from energy-draining decisions throughout the week. Schwab called it the mental shielding protocol. It was applied every Monday morning, before opening any emails, before taking any calls. And Hill documented that this protocol reduced decision fatigue by 63% over the course of the week. In the next video, you'll hear every step of this protocol, and you'll understand why Carnegie never started a Monday without applying it. Organizing your week like a millionaire isn't about having more time. It's not about working less. It's not about productivity. It's about having a system that directs your subconscious before the week even begins, and when your subconscious has direction. It organizes energy around what truly matters, without conscious effort, without struggle. Carnegie applied this system for 43 years. Ford applied it for 37, Edison applied it for 29, Darby applied it for 16, and every single one of them started applying it before they had a fortune, before they had a team, before they had a company. The system came first, the results came later, and the system had 4 moves: defining the single unique outcome, 1 sentence, 1 outcome, no lists; identifying the 3 pillars, the 3 areas that support that outcome; protecting non-negotiable time, blocking 3 mornings before any external commitments could creep in; and weekly review, looking at what happened and adjusting the system for the next week. The order is non-negotiable: outcome, pillars, time protection, in that sequence, always, because an outcome without pillars is just a wish. Pillars without an outcome is movement without direction, and time protection without the first 2 is self-deception. You now know the system that Carnegie, Ford, and Edison used. It's no longer ignorance, it's a choice. Either you apply it, or you continue to be driven by the week instead of driving it. There's no middle ground, and the practical challenge is this: before next Sunday is over, you're going to grab a piece of paper. You're going to write the question at the top. If this week had only 1 outcome, what would it be? You'll answer with 1 sentence, a sentence that describes something that exists at the end of the week that doesn't exist now. Then you'll identify the 3 pillars that support that outcome, and you'll write the 3 below the outcome, and then you'll open your calendar for the following week, and you'll block Monday morning for pillar 1, Wednesday morning for pillar 2, Friday morning for pillar 3, before any meetings, before any external commitments. And on Friday of that week, at 6 o'clock in the evening, you'll sit down and review. Did the outcome happen? Did the 3 pillars advance? Was the time protected? And if the answer is yes, you've just completed the first week of the rest of your life organized like a millionaire. And if the answer is no, you'll identify which step was violated, and you'll correct it the following Sunday, because the system only breaks when you stop applying it. As long as you apply it, the system works. Carnegie died in 1919. He left a documented fortune of $480 million. But when Hill asked him 3 months before he died what the most valuable asset he had built was, Carnegie didn't say money. He didn't say company. He said the system, because the system built everything. And that system starts next Sunday evening at your desk with a blank piece of paper, and with a single question. If this week had only one outcome, what would it be?